David Ndii, what's up with this man? No, it's Friday, let's relax. I know.
The advocate to the table.
Yes, who is in the bar? Admitted to the bar.
Yeah, you've been admitted to the bar. Let me just throw this to you. What's up with David Ndii? What's not going on? Why is he popular? Why has he been popular this past week?
Well, I think...
in fact, for the benefit of my viewer, please describe for me who David Ndii is. You know, we could be talking about someone who's not so popular, but we're making him popular for all the reasons not so very good with everyone else.
Well, to just sum it up, he's an economist who has been a key strategist and ally of the NASA faction of the opposition. Now, why he has been in the headlines more so this week has been because of his sentiments regarding possible secession of people, of certain groups of people from this republic, which he has advocated for and actually encouraged that we need to discuss certain issues. We need to discuss the fact that people or certain groups of people, ethnic groups of people, feel like they're not included in running this government, or they feel like they're not part and parcel of this government. He also echoes that there's a growing feeling that only a small group, maybe 1, 2, maximum 3 tribes, that get to decide what happens in this country, and that the rest do not feel like they're part and parcel of decision-making in this country, of the running of this country, of the building of this country. And because of that, then they hold the right to self-determination, and they can choose, look, we don't want to be a part of Kenya anymore. We can secede from this country, and we can decide to rule ourselves as well.
Central Republic of Kenya and Western Republic of Kenya. That was
People's Republic of Kenya.
Oh, wow. Grace.
Now, just beyond what he says, David Ndii's sentiments are in law. The Banjul Charter, Article 20, our Constitution also 255, 257?
255, 256, and 257.
Yes. So all those are the elements allowing him to ask for secession. But in my point of view, and this I take full responsibility for this opinion.
Go for it.
Is that, one, I do not agree with the concept of secession. I think we should go in line with the preamble, an indivisible nation. But what David Ndii is saying is something that is true. There's something terribly wrong with this country. And this something that is terribly wrong in this country goes beyond tribe, goes beyond land, goes beyond injustices. And this is a seed that has been planted. This theory of secession, chances are, will not go through. But it is a narrative that has been planted in Kenyans' minds. And if this narrative is taking root this fast, it tells you there's something terribly wrong in this country. And there's something that is not being addressed. He's calling for something that is necessary, a talk. And then righting the historical wrongs. Because it is true, there is a feeling. Whether this feeling is right or not, whether it's based on evidence or not, this is a feeling that is within this country. I'll take you back to Rwanda after the genocide, the Gashasha court system, and whereby those who carried out the atrocities were forced to face their victims. It wasn't for purposes such as they'll take them to jail. It was a purpose of reconciliation. Forgiveness needed to be there. Compensation needed to occur. There are problems in this country, for example, the Wagala massacre. I come from the regions that are called the marginalized communities, whereby a matatu coming from, say, areas of Moyale to Nairobi, it's written to Kenya. When you go there, they ask you what's happening in Kenya. This is true. There has been an inequality in this country, and it needs to be fixed. Who is best placed to fix it, in my opinion, is none other than President Uhuru Kenyatta. Why do I say this?
Please tell me.
Is because, one, he comes from, according to David Ndii, the communities that have been in power for too long at the expense of others. Second, he's the son of the first president, so he has been sired by the first president and recommended to the people by the second president, also who is in the community that has had issues, according to David Ndii. His family is also one of the largest landholders. Land is a big issue. His family is also one of the richest families in Kenya. David Ndii also talks of an economic inequality.
That's right.
So he is in the best position to, if nothing else, I mean, there's the TJRC report, the Nungu land report. All of these have not been sorted. He is in the best position to sort it, and we need to do it before this narrative takes root. And it might not take root in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. but it is a conversation that this country needs to have. And this country needs to sort its problems from the past in order to save the generations that come.
Craig, yesterday you were telling me about a legacy. And a legacy will not just be about infrastructure.
Yes.
Do you think not even do you think, Grace is talking about Uhuru Kenyatta being the right person to bring Kenya together. Your thoughts?
Yes. Hassan Omar once said that the problems of this country are in the software. The software being the things that make us relate to one another. And we must be cognizant to the fact that this country was not one homogeneous culture. We were many cultures brought together by a border. And because of this, we have different ways of looking at things. You've heard people say the Kikuyu nation, the Luo nation, the Western nation,
the Mlembe
nation. And we were brought together by a border. And so we are different people who have to come together under one unifying factor.
That's right.
And this unifying factor, in my opinion, must be Kenyatta's legacy going forward. I mean, leave corruption. Corruption, I don't even think it matters at this point. What matters is the unification of Kenya. President Kenyatta must ask himself, are all the people that I'm governing, do they feel that they have a stake in this country?
That's right.
And if you feel like you have a stake in a country or in a place or in a nation, then you will become a patriot. But otherwise, all those things are empty words. I mean, we've been talking, there's been a lot of discourse about how to breathe life into Article 10 of the Constitution, the principles that govern the nation. And that is one of the ways. Those are one of the ways. You know, the president has to come out, look at the next 5 years and say that my father was the founding father. President Moi put his foot on tribalism.
Yes.
President Kibaki grew our economy. Now he has to unite it.
He has to unite it. Now, I want to throw this on the table, people, and see, David Ndii is talking about secession. Uhuru Kenyatta has got policies that he started in his previous administration and now will continue in this administration should the court case go in his favor. But of course, these are things that have already been set up, things like devolution. I live and work in Nairobi, but I can go and work in Narok and set up shop there, and not just set up shop, set up a family, go marry, intermarry, and have as many wives. I mean, since they're the ones who enjoy so many wives. No, not really. I'm not. People are taking me so seriously this Friday morning. But I'm just saying, hey, if it's uniting people, it's saying, hey, look, you can go to Kajiado, own land, and no one's going to stop you. And if anything, we are here to support you. We're here to do that. Your thoughts on that?
Team,
devolution.
First and foremost, I think what Ndii is trying to suggest is him thinking in panic mode. And anytime this country has thought in panic mode, we always end up in the doldrums. And this is why I say he's thinking in panic mode. Let's give him what he wants, hypothetically. Let's let him have what he wants.
Really?
No, I'm saying
hypothetically.
Hypothetically, let's give him.
Kenyans take things very.
No. Let's give him what he wants.
Sour.
Let's divide this country down the middle, for example. Let the Western, Nyanza, and part of Rift Valley go to be a country on its own or be a state on its own. Let's just try and picture this in our minds.
Right.
Team, democracy dictates that the majority have their say. And they have, the majority have their way.
Yeah.
Now, team, even if we divide that country, there are people who, in that new republic that will be formed, will still be a majority.
Yeah.
So there will be a new majority that will have their way at the expense of others who will feel like they are being oppressed. So what has he achieved? The same thing he was running from, or that he's proposing to run from in having Kenya as it is right now, is still going to manifest in the new republic that is going to be formed. Democracy is not perfect. It isn't. But it has its drawbacks. Yes, I agree that, just as Grace is saying, that there are people who feel like they haven't been part and parcel of this country before. But secession is not the way to solve that problem. The same way, and I'll say this at the risk of being very controversial.
Go for it.
I don't believe devolution was a solution we needed for this country to get services to the ground. We needed a president who believed that there is potential in each and every corner of this country.
Right.
Strongly enough to invest in each and every corner of this country.
Yeah.
What we did through devolution is just devolve the crimes or the incompetencies that were in the presidency itself.
Right.
So now we have smaller presidents who have the same character of the same president, probably, or the same kind of president we used to have long ago. And that is why we can still have so much corruption even at county level. What we need, the team, is a change in mentality. If we're going to change this country, we need a change in mentality from the ground.
Who's going to change
Because, team, you see, the thing is, if we change the mentality of people from the ground, and we actually have people going to vote, believing that, look, we have to choose the right person, not based on tribe, but based on who has the best interest of this country at heart. Team, I won't care if he's from my tribe, if he's from which, I won't care. What I look at is I'll test the content of character in that individual.
But why? Who is pushing for this narrative that, you know, wale wa kutoka ile tribe, the ones from this other tribe? Who are these people?
It is the same person who preached 41 tribes against one tribe. It is the same individual because team, look at the root cause. No, look at the root cause of something. And let me say this as a caution. What Grace mentioned about the historical injustices that have been meted out on certain people in this country is very true. We cannot run away from that fact. People need to heal from those things. People need to be compensated from those crimes. We cannot put our heads or bury our heads in the sand long enough for that. That has to be dealt with.
That has to be dealt with.
But at the same time, we also need to realize that, look, we are one thing. We are one nation. Countries like Tanzania have almost double the number of tribes that we have.
Very true.
But they don't go through what we go through. This narrative, this extremely strong tribal narrative, has only been precipitated in the last 10 years.
No.
It has only been precipitated because, team, if you think about it,
she has a different.
If you think about it, this issue only becomes extremely pronounced during election periods.
No.
Now, listen, before you say no, before people get emotional here, let's listen to this. Let's listen to this. Let's listen to this. In 1992, people were united fighting for democratic space. In 1997, people were united to fight against an incompetent government.
Correct. You all agree, right?
Those were the narratives during those elections.
Correct.
None of this tribal nonsense was preached during those two elections. 2002, the whole country united, not in tribal outfits. No, the whole country united to fight against corruption.
Grace,
it is only in 2007 where we had someone running for president who had absolutely no agenda but fighting against one tribe. And he managed to unite the whole country against one tribe, rally the whole country against one tribe, lead to all the deaths that happened in 2007 against one tribe. We have to be honest with ourselves, team. We have to be. One individual decided that, look, the only way I'm going to get to power is if I come down against this. For Christ's sake.
Grace has...
First of all,
let's hear what Craig has to say. Yeah.
You know, when you look at an elephant from the back, you think it's a fly whisk. And when you look at an elephant from the front, you'll just think it's a hose. You need to look at the whole elephant to realize that it's an elephant. You know, for Ian to come and say that in 2007, the violence that was meted in this nation was because of preaching 41 against one tribe. What about saying that there was a president who sat in State House after losing the mandate to rule the country in an open and free election? What about
are we going to ignore what was preached during the campaign, where we had people being called monkeys on top of trees? Are we going to ignore that? Who is looking at the elephant from the back or from the front now? Because we are only looking at the president. No, we are only looking at the president who sat in State House being sworn in. We are ignoring each and everything that led to what happened.
How did the violence?
What happened after the election? What happened after the election?
How did it precipitate?
No. What happened after the election was only a consequence. This was something that had been boiling during the campaign period. And it had been instigated and fueled by one individual, and we cannot run away from that.
Okay, no, let us ask ourselves, Ian, you talked about tribalism only coming as of 2007. Yeah. Miraculously, when President Kibaki came into power.
Right.
Yeah,
President Kibaki came into power in 2002.
In 2002, and that's when the tribalism started.
Let's hear what he says,
we were meant to have an inclusive government. Actually, that was what NARC ran its platform on. And immediately he came into power, he isolated every other community. And so when you came into 2007, the country felt like, listen, this country belongs to President Kibaki and his community. And then when the election happened, when he refused to give over the reins of power, obviously the country went into flames. So to attribute it to one person and say that, no, because the country went into flames because an election looked like it was robbed from you, I think it's a bit wrong. Number two,
Grace.
number
All right.
two,
Yeah, number two.
Number two, going on talking about devolution.
Yeah.
Devolution. Have you traveled around Kenya? Have you seen what devolution has done for the country? To go and say that no, devolution is a misunderstood concept, or maybe it wasn't something that we needed at the time, is fallacious, and it's looking at the elephant from the trunk like it's a hose. You have to look at the whole thing. I was working in Bungoma I think 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And when you look at what devolution and the money that devolution has brought from the national government to Bungoma, it is one of the pillars of our new constitution.
Pillars
Maybe
of the
talk
new
about
constitution.
devolving differently into less units. But say you want to keep everything in the national government, it's precisely why there's a group of people in this nation who want to secede.
Hold it, guys, just for 2 minutes, because I'm going to take a break just now. When we come back, this will be put to bed. Don't go away. This is New Day. Give me your hashtags. New Day KE. Swing me your thoughts on that. This is getting very, very hot here. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Right. It was getting heated a few minutes ago. I hope the temperatures are still right there, partly cloudy, but let's get your thoughts on this, Grace, because I cut you short on that. Go for it.
I mean, there's a truth to both sides of the divide.
Right.
Yeah. And here's the truth. The narrative of 42 against 1, there's a reason why that narrative took root. And this is the reason. If you look at the northern parts of this country, this is where I come from, and this is where I can relate to.
Yeah.
When you are headed to areas such as Marsabit and Moyale, it would take you about 3 days on road. Now it takes you 1 day. But for the time that it took 3 days, what did these people feel? In Turkana, there were deaths. The only time the nation turned towards them is when we found out there was oil. And this is true. There is an inequality in this country. And this inequality needs to be addressed. Mbugua talked of a utopia, that devolution was not necessary if we had a leader that looked at the wants of every side of this country.
That's right.
But he was asking the country to wait until we found that leader. And that is why we could not wait. And that's why devolution was so necessary. So that these parts of the countries where they were marginalized, they were not considered.
Yes.
Whereas other parts of this country were grown, it's necessary. Devolution has shown miraculous benefits.
Miraculous. Where you come from.
Yes, there are certain areas that suddenly now have hospitals, that suddenly now have roads, that there's now employment, that there's someone to fight for their rights, that they're not voting for the sake of voting. They're voting because now that there's someone who will go towards their needs. That's not to say that devolution is the solution for everything. Devolution has its own issues. It has precipitated tribalism to the root level.
Right.
I'll give another example from where I come from.
Go for it.
All of a sudden, we were Kushites. Now that there's devolution, we're now the specific tribes, specific subclans.
Yes.
There's a problem there. Again, we're talking about 42 against 1. You remember, Northeastern wanted to go and become part of Somalia.
MRC was doing
Yes,
Mombasa.
Mombasa had
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah.
No one addressed them. We were so stuck in trying to put each other together with glue, and you cannot force a people that do not want to be together unless you get to the root cause of the problem.
Yes.
And this root cause of the problem needs to be addressed. And that is the truth. Without it, in 10, 20, 30 years' time, it's going to have an issue. For example, when in this area, the Maasai land, and they were told, let these people not take land from you. They come here and they take your land. No one is mentioning the issue of willing buyer, willing seller. No. And this is a problem that comes from both sides of the divide. The opposition has had a lot of capital as concerns it.
Absolutely.
And this is because this is something that had been festering within the people.
Yeah.
But where I fault the opposition is not coming up with solutions. Solutions to tell the government, listen, these people feel this way, this way, this way, this way, this way.
Right.
Instead of pointing their guns against a certain tribe, we should instead ask this tribe, come, let's have a talk. This is what we feel. This needs to stop. This needs to end, because Kenya is beyond just one tribe.
Just beyond one tribe. Just beyond one tribe. Final thoughts, very quickly. 30 seconds.
No, final thoughts. Let me set a few records straight. First and foremost, we can all see what devolution has done.
Right.
Like Grace said, we could not wait to get that leader who would look at this country fairly all through. So it was a necessity at that time.
Right.
But as much as it was a necessity, let's not also ignore the fact that, look, we also need to sensitize our people down to the ground, that even for that governor, even for that president that you're going to elect, let it not be based on tribe, because you can have a president who is going to come in and frustrate devolution. We need a president who believes in each and every part of this country. So devolution is there, it's in the constitution now.
Okay.
And it has benefited us. So let's get a president who at national government will support county government, because we need this country to develop as a whole. Let's also have this dialogue that we are saying that, look, as much as people have felt like they have not, or certain people have felt they have not been included in government,
Right.
we have to admit that the steps that the current opposition has taken over the last 10, 15 years
Correct.
to amend that have not been the right way.
Okay.
They've
Right.
not taken
Okay.
the right route.
Not the right
We need
route.
to re-strategize, because yes, we have problems that need to be dealt with.
I
But
give you
pitting
30
against one
seconds.
tribe
Yeah.
is not going to solve it. We need to come up with a different solution to this.
Different
Because at the end
solution.
of the day, it has to be solved.
Okay, good. Unfortunately, this is a conversation that's going to be held outside the studio while tea is happening, and I'm also meant to understand that two of you have things to do, and I'm just going to release you. This is the time where I bid thee farewell and wish you a lovely weekend. This show is getting hotter and hotter and hotter. I've got a bunch of very built people with interesting t-shirts who are going to be joining me in a couple of seconds from now. But for now, let me just tell you what's happening on your roads. It's really good to have you. Wonderful weekend to you.
Thank you.
Mbugua, I know you're not super satisfied. I'm going to have this conversation with you in the boardroom, and we are going to put this matter to bed. If not, we bring it again on Monday. I'm Tim Juru.